So, we are on, starting with direct examination by defense attorney. Now, Mr. Klieger, calling your attention to July of this year, when did you have a physical custody of Sarah for a specific period of time during the month of July? Objection, Your Honor. The question is vague as to time. Sustained. During July of 1984, was Sarah ever in your physical custody? When was that date? July 1984. Yes, she was. For how long a period of time? 2 weeks. Was that part of the original 3-week order? Yes, it was. Now, isn't it true you did not take Sarah the first week? Is that correct? Objection, Your Honor, irrelevant. Yes, but there are reasons. Excuse me, there is an objection. Oh. When you hear them object, if you will remain silent, then I will rule on the objection. What would be the relevance of the week's visitation that he didn't exercise? Your Honor, we are seeking a change of custody, and the relevance would be that the child was ill and he didn't feel competent to take care of her at that time. Objection sustained. Now, Mr. Klieger, during that first 2-week period in July when you had custody, physical custody of Sarah, isn't it true that you taught her to do tricks with her vagina? Absolutely not. Did you have her lie down on your bed nude? Absolutely not. Did you walk nude in her presence? Absolutely not. Never? Never. What kind of activities did you do with Sarah during that 2-week period? You mean during the day? Again, I am going to object as to relevancy. I am not sure what the activities they participated in have to do with the issue of child molestation. Overruled. Would you redefine what you are asking, please? I asked what activities did you share, or what activities did you do with Sarah during that 2-week period? During the 2-week period? She was in school during that 2-week period, okay? I took her to school in the morning, left her off. I picked her up. We walked in the park at night. We went to the park. She played on the swings. We bought Pioneer chicken. We enjoyed our time together. And I read her stories before she went to bed at night, like a loving father. And isn't it true that you would bring her to school late? That is absolutely correct. And is it also true, Mr. Klieger, that you did not pay for that school? Objection, irrelevant. Sustained. That is one of the things we have asked in our moving papers, that Mr. Klieger pay for that period of time. And that is in the responsive papers where they are refusing to do so. Well, counsel, excuse me, sir, sure, just relax. Okay, I can tell you are tense. Okay, I wonder why we are here. Are we here for money, or are we here on an alleged molestation? Our primary issue is custody, Your Honor. All right, the objection is sustained. All right. Your Honor, during the period of time that you had Sarah, did you see your former wife during the first visitation? Did I see my wife while I had Sarah with me? Is that what you are asking me? That's correct. You mean during the first? That's right. 3-week visitation schedule that I was allowed. Did I see my wife during that period? Is that what you are asking? That's correct. The only time I saw Mary was when her second weekend visitation schedule began, which was the second weekend of the second week of the first 3-week schedule, if that makes sense. Now, when you saw her, isn't it true, Mr. Klieger, that you called her names? No. Did you call her a fucker? No. A bitch? No. In front of the minor child? I did not. Did you threaten that she would not get Sarah back? I did not. Did you say that she would be lucky to ever see her again? I did not. Mr. Klieger, did you encourage Sarah to walk naked in the house? Absolutely not. She was always dressed. She wasn't always dressed, but she is a 4-and-a-half-year-old child in her normal home. Now, Mr. Klieger, are you aware that Sarah came home after that visitation and told her mother that you taught her how to do tricks with her vagina? After the first visitation? I am not aware of that. Are you aware that she told her that at some other time? I am aware of it only through the documentation that I read. Did you ever discuss that with Dr. Aguirre? I most certainly did. And are you aware that Sarah told other people that told her mother and Dr. Aguirre that you taught her how to do tricks with her vagina? I am not aware of that. And is it your position that, did you ever have any discussion with her at all regarding her vagina? Absolutely not. Now, calling your attention to the second period of visitation that you had with Sarah, did you take her to a doctor during that period of time? I most certainly did. What caused you to take her to the doctor? She woke up the night of the 14th about 12 o'clock at night with some pain in the vaginal area. Did you examine that area at that time? I most certainly did. And what did you see when you examined that area? I saw redness, irritation. And could that irritation come from, well, strike that. What kind of expertise would you have in determining irritation in the vaginal area? Objection, Your Honor, no foundation that he has any expertise or that he's qualified to render an opinion. May I have the question? Objection overruled. You may answer the question. There was redness. Well, did you ever examine the vaginal area prior to that time? Of course not. Well, how could you determine that that area was any more red at that time than other times? Sarah said it hurts, and I looked and it was red. And that's the area she was pointing to. And what did you do about that? What did I do about it? I asked my fiance, who lives in the house with me, to come and take a look and see what she thought, okay? And she said, well, it looks irritated. Try some Lanocaine. So I got some Lanocaine on a cotton swab, a Q-tip, and I spread the Lanocaine along the inside. That didn't work. As Sarah said, she was still in discomfort. So I got some paper towels out. I wiped out the Lanocaine. And then I tried some Vaseline. I also used the Vaseline on a Q-tip. And then Sarah said she wanted to apply it herself. I said, okay, go right ahead. I got up, fixed some warm milk for her. That's all. That's all. 200 for voice, 15 minutes. We're in cross by defense. Ready? Excuse me just a minute, Your Honor. Can I see her card? Mrs. Peters, did you attend a lineup in regard to this case? Yes, I did. What was the date that you attended the lineup? It was a Wednesday, I believe. A Wednesday. At 7 o'clock. I don't remember the date of it. Was it at night? Yes. Did everyone from Avco Financial Services or everyone that was there on November 2nd, did they all attend the lineup? Yes, they did. Approximately how many persons were there in the room? In the room where the lineup was held. I was told that there were 17 witnesses and there's a number of officers. Your Honor, I'll move to strike what she was told. Your objection is sustained. Mrs. Peters, could you estimate for us approximately how many persons that you saw? 24, maybe. Did you have a conversation with anyone during the course of the lineup while we were sitting there, you mean? Yes. Not a regular conversation, no. But was it a matter of something like, I think that looks like him, or that might be the man, or things of that nature? Not really. I know that I saw him. I had kind of a shocked look on my face, and I looked at the girl next to me because I was positive that that was him. Okay. Who was the girl sitting next to you, Mrs. Sanford? When you saw the person that you thought was the same person, you turned around to Mrs. Sanford and you looked shocked at her. I just remember looking at her and turning back. I was just, well, when he first walked in the office, when he pulled the gun, I felt my heart kind of pounding. As soon as I saw him, that same kind of sensation came over me. All right. Did you give Mrs. Sanford a look of recognition, for example? Your Honor, I have to object to the question. The objection is overruled. I don't know. I know I looked at her. I don't know what look was on my face. At the time that you looked at Mrs. Sanford, did you feel frightened? Not frightened, just kind of. I had the same feeling when I saw him then as when I saw him when he had the gun. Okay. What did Mrs. Sanford do when you turned around and looked at her? I don't remember. Let me ask you this, Mrs. Peters. As you were looking at this person and getting the feeling, you turned to your side. Is that true? Yes. When you turned to your side and looked at Mrs. Sanford at that point in time, did she turn around and look at you? Yes, she did. Could you describe the look on her face at the time? I think but only from talking to her later that, don't tell us that, okay, that turning and looking toward her, was that only then, only once during the course of the lineup? Yes, sir, during the first lineup, during the first one, I looked and said, there's nobody there. You said that to her after they walked off the first line because she thought that was the only lineup. Okay, other than that time, you only looked at her twice, right, during the course of the lineup, once after the first one was over, and during the course of the second one, you turned around and gave her that look. I might have looked at her. I thought I was looking around the room to look at the expressions on anyone else's face. You were looking for expressions? I could have been. Do you remember whether you looked at other persons to see if they had an expression on their face? I looked around the room. I guess you might say I did. Yes, sir. What you were trying to see was if anyone else had a look of recognition about them. Yes. Was Mrs. Sanford doing the same thing, looking around the room? I don't think so. Thank you. Nothing further. Mr. Conger? Yes, please. At the time you saw the defendant, Mr. Walker, in the second lineup, was he with any other persons at that lineup? Yes. Oh, with other persons? Yes. How many other persons was he with? 5 or 6. That's all. Just a minute. I have no further questions at this time, Your Honor. May this witness be excused, gentlemen? No objection. No objection. You're free to leave the courthouse if you so desire. We'll take approximately 10 minutes recess at this time. Call your next witness, Edward Muth. And please have a seat. State your full name for the record, Edward R. Muth, M-U-T-H. Sir, where are you employed? AFCO Financial Services. What is the address? 718 East Valley Boulevard. What city? San Gabriel. On the 2nd of November, 1972. Were you employed there? Yes. I'm an account representative. On that November 2, 1972, at approximately 2:45 p.m., were you on the premises? Yes, I was. Did something of an unusual nature occur? Yes, sir. Where were you at that time? I was sitting at my desk talking on the telephone. What did you see happen? I saw a fellow walk into the office. He walked kind of to the right and looked around and then walked and looked back at us. I was not really paying too much attention because I was on the phone. He pulled a gun and wanted everyone to get on the floor. Did he say something? Yes, he said to me to hand up the phone, and out of the corner of my eye, kind of, you know. What I saw then was that he had a gun pointing at us. How far away was that person from you? Not as far as the back door. Do you mean as far as or a little closer, just like on the other side of that walkway, approximately 20 feet? That's at the time you first saw him with a gun? Right. And he made the statement for everybody to get on the floor? Yes. Is that person in the room? Yes, he is. Will you point him out? In the white sweater. The record will indicate that the witness has identified Charles Frederick Walker. From here on in, we will refer to him as Mr. Walker. Did you see him at a closer range? No, I didn't. After he told everybody to get on the floor, what did you do? I got on the floor. From that position, did you observe anything to occur after that? Yes, I watched the one girl who got up on the floor. Which girl is that? I believe it's Claudine Sanford. Did you overhear Mr. Walker say anything to her? He asked for the money, and he was asking for the cash bags. By asking, sir, will you just in your best words describe what he said? The words he used as best you can recall. Give me the money. All right. He didn't ask. He made a statement. Right, with the gun. Tell us what you overheard and what you saw. It was give me the money. Then where's the cash bags? If you don't give me the cash bags, I'm going to start shooting. Then she got the bags. Who's she? Claudine Sanford. All right. He asked her where the safe was or to open the safe, and she said it was already open, and then he started to walk over toward the safe, and she said, but there's nothing in it. Now that's when he was asking for the cash bags. Did you overhear him say anything with any regards to wallets? Well, not at that time. At some point later? Right. What did he say? He said, okay, all of you gentlemen, put your wallets in front of your heads. What did you do? I took my wallet out and put it in front of my head. Who picked it up? Claudine Sanford. He told her to pick them all up, and she handed them over the counter. Did you see what Mr. Walker did with your wallet? I saw it go into his hand, and by then he was back by the counter. The counter is just a little bit above your belt level. I could just see, like from the top of your belt up. Did you see him take the wallets? Yes, I did. Did you ever see it again? No, I didn't. Was there any money in it? Yes, sir, $10. Why did you place your wallet out on the position that you described? Well, he was standing there pointing a gun and says, take your wallets out and put them in front of your heads on the floor. I mean, if someone is pointing a gun at you and they ask you to take your wallet out, can you tell us whether or not you were afraid that he might use the gun? Yes, he said he would. Could you describe what kind of weapon it was that he had that you call a gun? Something like a rifle or machine gun? Well, it was a handgun. It appeared to be a revolver because it had a long, thin barrel and it was a dark blue. Aside from that, you don't know what type of caliber. From that distance to see, it looked to me as though it would have been a 22. I'm not sure. If it was a 45, it would be quite a large hole. You would notice the hole on that. It was inside. It was never out. Never out directly pointed toward you. It was in like that. You mean closer to him? Yes. It was a smaller hole than a 45. Is that what you're telling us? Well, it didn't stand out to be, it didn't register in my mind as being a 45 because I looked at it and I didn't see it. It didn't stand out. I looked at the barrel just, you know. Did Mr. Walker have a gun in his hand at all times in the store? Yes, he did. Is that correct? Yes. Do you know the difference between a revolver and a pistol? One has a round cylinder that the bullets fit in. Right. What type was it? Was it a pistol or a revolver? Do you mean like a pistol? The pistol being a weapon, the clip fits into the handle with the bullets. I can't say for sure. Everything that you testified to happened in the county of Los Angeles, did it not? Yes, it did. I have nothing further. Cross-examination. Sir, you attended a lineup in regards to this incident? Yes, I did. Did you sit near Mrs. Sanford and Mrs. Peters? They were behind me. There was an empty seat between everyone, but they were behind me. During the course of the lineup, did you have a conversation with Mrs. Sanford or Mrs. Peters? No, I didn't. Did either one of them tell you who the person was that they recognized? No, they didn't. Before the lineup, was there any conversation with Mrs. Sanford and Mrs. Peters? Not concerning you know who it was. Okay. During the course of the lineup, did either one ever turn to you and say anything? No, they were behind me. Did they do anything to attract your attention in any way? No, it was fairly quiet in that room. I have no further questions, Mr. Conger. Yes, Your Honor. I have one or two other questions. May I reopen direct for that purpose, please? Yes. Do you know Arthur Campbell? Yes, he's the manager where I work. Was he on the premises on the date of this incident? Yes, he was. At the time that the wallets were demanded by Mr. Walker, did you see whether or not he did anything with his wallet? Yes, he put it over his head, in front of his head. Is this one of the wallets that Mrs. Sanford picked up? Right. Who's Castillo? He's an account representative. Did you see what, if anything, he did? He put his wallet in front of his head. Claudine picked up his wallet. And she picked up mine and picked up Art's and turned around and with all three of them handed them to him. To whom? Mr. Walker. And did Mr. Walker take those wallets? Yes, he did. That's all I have. Sir, you were lying down flat on the floor. Yes, I was. Were you able to see Mr. Campbell or Mr. Castillo at the time you were lying on the floor? Me behind it like that, I looked and there was them and there was Mr. Walker and I was looking around. The record will indicate that he was lying on the floor, and that he turned his head to the right and there was, to my right was Ben. Then Ben Castillo and Mr. Walker, and to your left was Mr. Campbell. Were you able to say that Mr. Castillo and Mr. Campbell were doing in regard to the wallets? I don't understand. Did you see him pull his wallet from his pocket? He came out over his head. You saw him with the wallet coming from over his head. You see, our waists were behind our desks. You did see him put his wallet in front of his head? Right. In front of him on the floor. Were you able to see the same thing with regards to Mr. Campbell? Right. Was there anything obstructing your view as to Mr. Castillo? Only from the waist down. I could see him from the waist up. How about Mr. Campbell? Right. That's all. Any questions? Do you have any more questions? No questions. Your Honor, for the record, the testimony of Mr. Edward Muth has been as to counts 5 and also count 6 and 7. May this witness be excused? No objection. No objection. Arthur Campbell. Please have a seat and state your full name for the record. Arthur Campbell. Spell the last name, please. Campbell. Your Honor, this witness will testify as to count number 6. Mr. Campbell, where are you employed? APCO Financial Services in San Gabriel. Is that 718 East Valley? Yes. In what capacity are you employed at that location? Branch manager. Were you on the premises on November 2, 1972? Yes. At approximately the hour of 2:45, did something of an unusual nature occur? Yes. At that time, where were you? Sitting at my desk in the back of the office. What did you see happen? A man walked in and pulled a gun. How far away from you was he at the time he pulled the gun? 25, 35 feet maybe. Did you ever see the man or the gun at a closer range than that? No, I didn't. I was on the floor. Can you describe the gun? No, I can't. It was just a pistol, revolver. Did he keep the gun in his hand at all times while he was there? Yes. How long was he there? Maybe 5 minutes. Would you recognize this person if you saw him again? Well, I wasn't positive at the lineup. Will you look about the courtroom and see if you can see that person in the courtroom? It appears to be the gentleman over here. What person are you pointing to? The fellow, he's got brownish white shirt. The record will indicate that the witness has appeared to identify Mr. Walker. From here on in, we will refer to the defendant as Mr. Walker. Were you dispossessed of anything? Yes, my wallet. Will you describe in what manner you were dispossessed of your wallet? He had us take our wallets from our pockets and lay them on the floor next to our heads. Did he say anything? I think he said it was something like, remove your wallets and place them next to your heads on the floor. Where were you, and where was he when that statement was made by Mr. Walker? He was at the front counter, and I was laying on the floor behind my desk. How far away was he at that time? 25 feet maybe. Did he have the gun in his hand at that time? Yes, he did. Did you do anything with your wallet? I removed it and laid it on the floor in front of my head. Why did you do that? The man was pointing a gun at me. Can you tell us whether or not you were afraid? Absolutely, I was. Did you see anybody pick up your wallet? My record keeper, Claudine Sanford. What did she do with it? She handed the 3 wallets and mine to Mr. Walker. Did you overhear Mr. Walker say anything at all as to what should be done with the wallets? And did he make any statements after you laid your wallet there with regards to the wallets? I don't know. Do you know why Mrs. Sanford picked up the wallets? He instructed her to pick them up. What did he say? He said pick up the wallets. Does she give the wallets to Mr. Walker? Correct. Did he take them? Yes, he did. Did you ever see your wallet again? No, I haven't. Did you have any money in your wallet? No, sir. Everything you have testified to occurred in the county of Los Angeles? Yes, sir. I have nothing further. Cross-examination. Mr. Campbell, as I understand it, the closest that person was with a gun to you was approximately 25 to 30 feet away. Approximately, yes, from the front counter to the rear of the office. Is his desk next to yours? In front of mine, yes. The defendant, Mark Hill, was found guilty by a jury of first-degree murder. The victim was a teenager. On this appeal, he seeks a reversal of the judgment and of the order denying him a new trial. He bases his request for a new trial on the ground that the trial court committed error when it allowed his confession to go into evidence. He argues that the police did not advise him of his right to counsel to state expense when they gave him the Miranda warnings. He also claims that the state failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that his conduct caused the death of the victim. Now, the record shows that 2 policemen took the defendant into custody at the scene of a burglary. Now, the first thing that the officers did was to give Mark Hill his constitutional rights in accord with Miranda. The 2 officers did not question him at that time with respect to the burglary. However, while they were driving to the city jail, Mark Hill told them that he had murdered a young woman. He referred to her as a teenage chick. Under those facts, we conclude that he made the statement of his own free will. Now, the arrest took place about 3 o'clock on the morning of January 23. The policeman questioned him at the city jail about 4 hours later after they again gave him his Miranda rights. At that point, he admitted the burglary. After he finished making the statement about that crime, one of the officers asked him about the statement that he made in the squad car with respect to killing the young woman. The officer again informed him of his rights and asked him if he wished to make a statement about the victim's death. The defendant began to make a statement about the murder, but the officer stopped him. The officer wanted to wait until Detective Frank Page, who had worked on the murder case, could be there. After Detective Page arrived, Mark Hill made a long and detailed oral statement. He said that he had killed the young woman the previous June. He finished making this oral statement at 10:20 a.m. In a prior case, we held that where the Miranda rights were properly given and where there was a break in the questioning, it was not necessary to give the Miranda rights again when it was not disputed that the defendant understood them. Because the murder took place in another city, the police took Mark Hill to that venue where he again spoke to the police from that city. The police say that they again gave Mark Hill his full rights under Miranda and that he then signed a printed form. The form states that he knows his rights and that he wishes to proceed with the interrogation without a lawyer. The time was then 12 noon. Good police practice requires that they administer the rights in the form which the United States Supreme Court has previously set forth and which the courts of this state have found acceptable. One of the detectives asked the defendant if he would consent to a court reporter being there to take down the questions and the answers. He gave his consent, and he then made a detailed statement of the murder. Before the jury trial began, the defendant's lawyer asked the court to hold a hearing to decide whether or not Mark Hill made the confession freely and whether or not the police properly gave him his rights. After this hearing, the trial judge wrote a detailed decision. He wrote that all the statements were voluntary and in full accord with Miranda. We have held in other cases that this court will not upset a trial court's findings unless it is clear that they are against the great weight of the evidence. With respect to his first confession, Mark Hill now says that because of his mental and physical state, the confession could not be voluntary. In support of that position, he points out that during the questioning, he told the police that he needed help. One of the officers who testified said that Mark Hill seemed to be disturbed and asked for help. He said that before the questioning began, the defendant's eyes were glassy and bloodshot. And there was no proof, however, that these symptoms lasted up to the time